Alright, and now for the second to last team here. Second place, I'll say, as far as draft grades for the 2014 NFL Draft. That would be the Philadelphia Eagles. Had a few picks in the draft and did just about as much work outside afterwards in undrafted free agency to get right into it. Their first pick was 26th overall, Marcus Smith, outside linebacker, pass rusher, specialist out of Louisville. Good defense there that year. This year they've been a little bit inconsistent, but last year they looked a little bit better in my eyes. While I was able to see in videos during and after the season. Not too tall, 6'2", something like that. Not super fast, but definitely knows how to play the position. Was like kind of the keystone of that defense there that year. I wasn't really high on him to go in the first round, but they needed that, with Trent Cole moving to the outside and their 3-4 looks and not getting any younger there. And really, the defense in general holding them back from really going further last year against the Saints. They had that game at home. They won the division, but the Saints just went tit for tat for them on offense and scored last. So the Eagles weren't able to, outscore them, and they couldn't keep that point total down. I think it was like a 30-something game. It was over like 60 points scored that game in the playoffs. So it's not a terrible pick, just not their best pick to me, pound for pound. Their next pick was number 42 overall, Jordan Matthews. I don't know how he fell out. He's a wide receiver out of Vanderbilt. I didn't hear a ton about him during the season. I was just starting watching college football this year. I've watched it a lot more in 2014, but in 2013, he put up some good stats. Big body guy, 6'3", over 200 pounds, strong, fast, speed underrated, but he's just not, like super fast, like, Victor Cruz or Julio Jones or somebody like that. But definitely has the size and strength and overall ability to combine with that to go ahead and complement it so that, he could be an all-around receiver as well as a deep threat, red zone threat. And he's been a pretty good guy just, for mid-range type of throws for Mark Sanchez. That he's come along with him more so now that Nick Foles been out. I didn't think he'd come on this early, this strong, seeing as only a handful of receivers have done so, Calvin Benjamin and Mike Evans and guys like that. Out of all the receivers that were available this year and that went in the draft as well as undrafted free agency, he's producing a little bit earlier and a little bit more than I thought he would produce at this point. So it definitely turned out to be a great pick for them, actually. Even though I feel like it was a steal, actually, still. Now, the third pick was Josh Huff, 86 overall. Not a bad pick. Return specialist out of Oregon. I didn't really like his lack of size, especially to pick that high. But, I mean, they know what they're doing. They want a return specialist, someone to, complement platoon with Darren Sproles so they can maybe use him in the backfield a little bit more, which they have. He's been a big component of their early winning streak. Just pulling out a lot of games in bunches early in the season, despite giving up a lot of points and Nick Foles being inconsistent. I think he was 13 touchdowns, 10 interceptions when he went down. Their next pick was 101. It was the 101st overall pick. It was Jalen Watkins, cornerback out of Florida. Heard some things about their other cornerbacks, Marcus Roberson, who went down with injury last year before the draft, and Lucius Purifoy. But Jalen Watkins, I think, was the consensus guy that, probably would go in the draft, with the other two not. Remember, Mike Mayock was more big on Purifoy, at least as far as, giving him credit, saying the kid could be a really big deal coming into the league in the next few years. But we'll see how it goes. I don't know how much playing time Watkins has, but it wasn't a big chunk enough for me to realize what's been going on so far this year. But I just wasn't a fan of them after I've seen how they got torched by Florida State last year, especially, by Kelvin Benjamin, no doubt, but still, didn't like it. With all the talent they had with the three guys at the top of the depth chart, and they still got torched. They don't have a lot of pass rush there in Florida. This year they've been a little bit better in certain spots, but it was an okay pick. They need help at cornerback. They've never been the same since, Lito Shepard and Sheldon Brown and Asante Samuel have left. Their next pick was 141st overall, Taylor Hart. Defensive end, lineman out of Oregon, not a bad pick. I think he was rated or ranked a little bit higher going in the draft before the season, but at this point he fell, to the bottom of the top 150 picks. Not a bad pick. They do need some bulk up front. I do like what they have with certain players like Benny Logan, who I thought was a good pick for them a year ago. But somebody there to help on the edge there, really get push on the line here in the trenches. Was a good pick for them, especially good value at that point. Then their next pick was their 5th overall, Ed Reynolds, at 162, the 162nd pick. Safety out of Stanford, top defense there. I'll just leave it at that. I've said that enough, I suppose, but definitely a big body guy. I think he's like 6'1", 6'2". Definitely all around physical ability. Did benefit from great players up front like Josh Morrow and I want to say Trent Murphy on the outside. This past year, of course, he's having more help because the defense got even better with the new guys they had last year. But he goes in the draft this year and he goes to the Eagles, who are looking for somebody, to really get, a chance to possibly fill the void somewhat that Brian Dawkins has left since he's been gone years ago, back in 2009. And then their last pick in the 2014 NFL draft for the Eagles was Bo Allen out of Wisconsin. I want to say he's just a defensive lineman, defensive tackle, and in a 3-4 type of scheme. They got him with the 224th overall pick. Not a bad pick. Waiting till later in the draft to go for defensive line, even though it wasn't so deep. It's just not a position of value for me. And maybe for some people, depending on what kind of defense you want to build, or if you want to build around the defense so bad you want talent and depth. You draft defense in the first round years in a row. Certain teams have done 3-4 years in a row. Every first round pick is a defensive player, but they waited so late to get a defensive lineman like him. Of course, they picked Marcus Smith first with defense. They ended with defense. Got a mix in between. But they also really rounded out what they did. To me, the Eagles really diversified what they did by getting as many players in the draft. They got free agency. Undrafted free agents for them, to me, the highlights again that I would say it's worth mentioning would be out of Florida, fullback, tight end, wide receiver, Trey Burton. Of course, Chip Kelly probably will take someone like that and get the most out of him in his offense. I haven't seen too much of what he's done this year. I don't know how many snaps he's taken or how many plays have been drawn up for him, if he's been targeted, if he just runs the ball, if he's been playing special teams only, but we'll see how that goes. Next, they got David Fluellen, running back out of Toledo. They got him, he was a guy I heard, the top 20, 30 running backs I thought was on the board, who I thought would be taken. Again, only 18 or 19 running backs were taken this year, and a handful of fullbacks, a couple guys out of free agency. But overall, backs altogether, like less than 30 were taken in the draft. So altogether, fullbacks and halfbacks. So not a bad pickup. As they keep some depth behind LeSean McCoy, because it's just a passing league, and they run him a lot. He can't run like that every year. Adrian Peterson hasn't been able to do it. It happens to every running back. Shelf life, the whole 9. And their next pick was cornerback John Fulton out of Alabama. Not a spectacular player to pick up, but definitely an acquisition that I can't turn my nose up at, because it was definitely undrafted free agent, pickings, and he did come from a big school. Didn't look too great. He did have a great pass rush to help him and aid him in his coverage, but even then he wasn't that spectacular. I've seen some tape on him, and the video looks okay, but nothing that compares to guys like Gilbert and Denard and Fuller. The next pick was out of Missouri. Running back Henry Josie, again, another running back that's not quite 5'10", like 5'9" 3/4, 5'8", 7/8. A lot of these guys weren't exactly 5'10" or higher. But definitely a guy who had an all-around game. Good in the passing game, out the backfield. Decent all-around game. That team was mostly known for putting up points through the air. Of course, with their tight end Eric Waters, with Damian Washington on the outside. And the defense, even though they gave up a lot of points in that game against, I want to say it was Auburn for the SEC championship. Their next undrafted free agent, I'll say it's worth noting, was out of Nebraska, Taylor Martinez. Now, he's a quarterback there, and he had dealt with some issues, I want to say. and basically, he didn't look that great sometimes. He had injuries towards the end of his tenure there. His time with Nebraska was up and down. It was never spectacular, but it wasn't terrible. It wasn't like, like certain players that come from like great offenses, like Greg McElroy. He came up from a great offense that was put together with Julio Jones, Merton Hanks. Excuse me, not Merton Hanks. Marquise Hayes. I don't know why I get those names always mixed. Of course, he always had Mark Ingram there. Won the Eisman, I want to say. But A.J. McCarron looks considerably better than Greg McElroy. Now, Santana Martinez is going to be another Greg McElroy, but I just haven't been wowed from what I've seen on tape. They've had talent there in Nebraska, but just not enough to make them look that amazing to jump off the page. So, as an injured player coming into this draft year, not a bad pickup to pick up enough draft free agency. And then they rounded it out with wide receiver out of Rutgers, Coron Pratt. Someone I had on my board, top 30, 40 picks. I'm just not big on picking small receivers like 5'10", 5'11". Even Odell Beckham Jr. Has wowed me, just totally shut me up because I thought he was going to be good. They say he was a smooth route runner. Everything he does on the field is very smooth. Is how they described him and Jarvis Landry at LSU. But throughout the season, nothing about them wowed me. They weren't very tall. You could use your height to help you in the NFL, but mostly it's about using your height. If you have a lot of height. If you ever know they're very tall receiver, 6'3", 6'4", 6'5". But he still gets in and out of his routes, runs them well, gets open, makes plays on the ball. Very sound. He's always where he needs to be from what I've seen on tape. For a rookie. On all the highlights, he's making all these spectacular catches, fantasy freaking points he's getting. It's really amazing. He's not even 6', I think he's 5'11". So I'll give him that. But a guy like Coron Pratt was a little bit taller, and I just liked it a little bit better. Coming from another big school, Rutgers is coming along, since guys like, the likes of Kenny Britt and, Brandon Coleman this past year as well has been playing there. But Brandon Coleman didn't get drafted either, so he got picked up by the Eagles eventually, I think. They did grab him as well. I don't know if he's on the roster right now, but he's a big 6'6" receiver. Out of Rutgers as well as Coron Pratt. 220, 230. Not super fast. He's 6'6". He's well over 200 pounds. But he had some really nice film. He just looked very raw. Like his routes were not as crisp as the other ones look. They don't look as straight or as consistent. The same each route. Each one every time he does the same route doesn't look the same. For the little bit of film I've seen. But when he gets the ball, you can see he's just trying to use his size and his bulk and his strength and his speed just to get past guys and spin off of guys and take the ball downfield. Of course, trying to have a nose from the end zone from way back on his team side of the field. Big play potential there. Not sure if they stuck with him. Maybe he's on the practice squad or something. But that's another player they picked up as well. So really, they picked up more players of note in free agency, or 7 and 7. So the same amount. I don't know why I forgot to mention him, but yeah, Brandon Coleman as well as Coron Pratt, 2 wide receivers out of Rutgers. And that's it for this one. The next video is going to be the last team I think got the best draft in the 2014 NFL draft year. To me, the work they did was just top to bottom. They even had some undrafted free agents that I would think would be worth noting, and it might be a surprise to some people. But as the season has progressed, I think I've got a little bit more support, a little bit more evidence for my findings and my opinions there. But we'll see, and stay tuned for that video for the team with the best draft, the #1 draft in the 2014 NFL Draft.